you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick Podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He is Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy. Pierre, how was your weekend, my friend?
Lots of hockey, really busy, and a little golf tournament called the Masters. All outside of that, all good.
Yes, a fine Irishman won it. Got the I actually watched that, Pierre. As we were talking, I don't know golf that well, but I'm trying to learn. After all these years of being in the hockey industry, I think it's a must. So I tuned in, and that was some exciting theater, some exciting sports theater for sure, Pierre. And I was, as I text to you, quite the weekend for the folks of Northern Ireland. As Rory McIlroy won, and also the Belfast Giants took home their league title. So congrats to all our friends out in Belfast that we met when we were over there for the Friendship Four.
Yeah, no, Robert Fitzpatrick, Stevie Thornton, really happy for those guys, the entire team. Really special. The Belfast Giants are there to stay. Their arena is spectacular. They're trying to grow the game amazingly all across the island of Ireland. It's really amazing. It's not just hockey. It's about social. It's about what they do to help the kids in the community and what they do to help the entire sporting population of Northern Ireland in particular. So it's an exciting time to be a hockey fan in Ireland. I can tell you that.
Sure. And speaking, we mentioned the Friendship Four there. Speaking of college hockey, Pierre, Western Michigan wins the national championship over Boston University. As you mentioned heading in and a couple times as we were breaking down the tournament as it went on, you said be wary of them because they are a team and they're older, they're more experienced, they're bigger than most of these players out there. And of course, they went up against a BU team that is, I think we can agree, quite young and inexperienced, but also had loads of skill, and that's what got them there. But that finally ran out a bit there. And look, I think that game was a little closer than the score, Pierre.
It was, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that should be noted. But other than that, congratulations to Western Michigan. Congratulations to Boston University on great seasons there.
Pat Ferschweiler and his staff should be really proud. The head coach at Western Michigan, they put together a team that wasn't built on analytics. They put together a team that was going to be a team. They were big. They were grinding. They were well coached. They were coachable. Mm-hmm. They never panicked. They knew that, probably in their league, Denver was probably a little bit ahead of them when the season started, but they found a way to beat them and catch up. They deserve a ton of credit. They built a team. Yep. The city of Kalamazoo, the campus at Western Michigan, those people should be really proud of what they have there. Really proud.
I've been to Kalamazoo over the years, eh?
Many, many times, actually. Many, many times. So Minnesota North Stars and Dallas Stars used to have their farm team there.
I remember, yeah. And
they still have a team in the East Coast Hockey League. I actually watched the game from there yesterday. They were down. The Kalamazoo team was down 6-2 with about 10 minutes to go in the game, and they ended up coming back and making it 6-4. They lost the game, but in their last game of the year, they never quit. They had almost 4,000 people at the game. So hats off to that franchise as well. You talk about staying power. 50 years they've had American League or East Coast Hockey League or International League hockey in Kalamazoo. 50 years.
That's unreal. I'll tell you, Pierre, the only reason I know that Kalamazoo exists is because of hockey. I just remember from growing up hearing the name all the time in the different leagues. And speaking of the ECHL, congratulations to your son, Ryan, and his team, the Iowa Heartlanders, are headed to the playoffs.
Yeah, first time in their franchise history. And congratulations to Coach Damon and the entire organization involved with the Minnesota Wild. And they're really excited. They're going to be playing a legendary program, Fort Wayne Comets, in a best-of-7 starting next Friday night in Fort Wayne. And you talk about legendary buildings and franchises. Fort Wayne Comets are a legendary program and have them, whether it's in the old International Hockey League or now in the East Coast League. They're a fantastic organization.
Isn't that, if I remember correctly, Pierre, and I apologize if I don't remember the exact connection, but from our interview with Mike Emmerich, there's a connection there with Doc, right? Yeah,
Doc, when he was a kid growing up, he listened to all the Fort Wayne Comet games. Okay. You didn't get that wrong. You got that 100% right. Okay. And it's back in the day, that's a legendary old IHL franchise, legendary. And Doc was an Indiana kid that most people in Indiana love one thing:
The Hoosiers.
And Doc was a contrarian. I'm sure he loved basketball, but he loved hockey. He really loved hockey.
Good stuff there. And speaking of the Minnesota Wild, they still have not clinched a playoffs, clinched their spot yet. I'm in St.
And they got one game left. They got one game left.
Calgary is still hanging around. Credit to them.
Calgary has 2 games left. They're home versus Vegas, and they're at LA.
Yep.
So look at Minnie. You can take care of business. You play Anaheim on Tuesday night. No messing around. Zev Bullion will probably be in the lineup. They're getting a lot of guys healthy now. You got to just take care of your own business. I love what Marty St. said today, by the way, Jimmy.
Yeah.
He said, we want to be like Rory McIlroy. We don't want somebody to lose so we get in. We want to get in on our own. Yeah. It's like McIlroy. McIlroy had a win on his own.
Right.
You had to.
Yes.
Well, that's what Minnesota should be saying. Yeah. We're just going to take care of our own business. We're going to win tomorrow night, and we're done. We're in.
Yep. And they better, Pierre, because Calgary then would face in the last game an LA team that if they win tonight over Edmonton, will clinch that
home ice.
Second place. So really, you would imagine a lot of guys are going to rest. They're not going to really be. They're always going to try, but it's not going to have as much meaning to them to win that game. So it's a big game for Minnesota tomorrow. But you know what? There's a big game going where all our friends in the Sick Media are up in Montreal tonight, and we're going to get into that in a bit with our good friend Tony Marinaro, our colleague from the Sick Podcast Network.
What's his name?
Tony Marinaro.
Never heard of the guy.
Yeah, I never heard of him either. I never heard him. Darren Drager's heard of him, but we'll get into that later. But I'll tell you, I'm not even in Montreal, Pierre, but I'm watching things on social media. I'm listening to our friends at TSN 690 throughout the day, and it is hysteria up there right now. It's great. What a buzz around that city. We witnessed it when we were up there recently, but it's even bigger now. Ivan Demidov will make his first NHL debut in Montreal tonight against the Blackhawks. And if the Canadiens win, of course, they can clinch a playoff spot. I was watching Kent Hughes earlier, Pierre, and you could just tell he was beaming. He's like, this is great that this team, that we're here at this point, and that we have the opportunity to now get into the playoffs, and these young kids could get this experience of what playoff hockey is like.
Well, this is what they wanted to do. They're doing it in Laval right now too. How about Jacob Fowler the other night playing for Laval? Faced 26 shots, stopped 25 of 26, stopped 11 straight shots in the third period, 11 for 11. He was perfect, letter perfect. So, look, they got a lot of good stuff going on with their group. Montreal's got a lot of good stuff. And what I personally think they can take care of business on their own, but they also have insurance that they have to play again on Wednesday against a Carolina team that already knows who they're playing. They're playing New Jersey, and they're already set. Like they don't need to worry. It's to what you were talking about with LA and Edmonton. They're only 3 series decided so far: Carolina, Jersey, Dallas, Colorado, LA, Edmonton. Those are the only 3 series set.
Yep.
So there's a little fluctuation potential for a lot of these teams. All that being said, if I'm Montreal, Chicago has to play in Ottawa tomorrow. Just take care of business tonight. And then you can get the right guys some rest. Because there's certain guys that do need to rest. Jimmy, you watched the game Saturday night like I did from Toronto. They were barely hanging on.
They were.
Like they had 9 shots. They had 9 shots after 40 minutes, Jimmy. Like Toronto gave them an A game. And Dobich to Dobich's credit, he gave Montreal an A game too.
I thought that was one of his best starts in the NHL so far, Pierre. I really did.
I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more.
For him. Yeah, he was great.
We agree. And that's a big point. You look at it in the scheme of the whole thing, that extra point for them, getting a point actually was huge for them. Huge. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like you said, Toronto was coming. I mean, they want to win that division, and credit to them yesterday too with that win in Carolina. But I want to go back to Friday, Pierre, and we were texting as the game started, and you said, "What is Marty doing starting this line right now? Why does he not have the Evans line out there right now? What's going on with that?" And then you go ahead, they lose, and they didn't look ready off the bat in that game. I think we can.
They gave up a goal in the first freaking 28 seconds of the game,
and it was just something off as it went on there. They couldn't get their traction in that game for some reason. And there'd be slight times where they would, and they'd regress. It was just one of those nights, but it was the vibe from the get-go. And what you said there is those guys should have been out there to set the tempo. And sure enough, on Saturday, I don't know who spoke to him, but they were out there to start that game in
Well,
Toronto.
he started Dvorak, he started Anderson, he did what I thought he should have done on Friday night. When you go into a building and they know Suzuki, Slavkovsky are going to bring the heat along, obviously, with Caulfield, don't set the table for them. Make them make adjustments. Mm-hmm. So right away, they put Pinto's line on. Pinto's exactly what the doctor ordered for playing against Suzuki. He's Patrice Bergeron light. That's what he is. That's really good, by the way. I've talked to Shane a lot over the course of time to start his career, and he's a tremendous player and a great kid. And Marty, he's a young coach. Yeah. Made a mistake, and the staff around him made a mistake too. There should have been a debate in that, and maybe there was. I wasn't there. There should have been a debate. No, we can't do that. This isn't smart. We're playing right off the start. We're playing into their hands. Mm-hmm. They were buried after 4 shifts in that game. There was no way they were winning that game after 4 shifts. No chance.
So, he makes a little mistake there, and that happens. It's going to happen. He's still a relatively new coach. But you're going to the playoffs, Pierre, where mistakes can cost you a lot more if you make the playoffs once they're there. As an inexperienced coach that's never coached in the playoffs, if you were in his shoes right now, what are you doing?
I'd be calling people that I trust. Mm-hmm. John Tortorella. I don't know, other coaches that he's played for or he's worked with. And I would be talking to those people because on that staff, there's no coaching playoff experience. There's none. Roger Grillo, who's their senior advisor, has never coached a game in the NHL. No experience. Robida has no playoff coaching experience as far as I know. Maybe he does, but I don't believe so. And Letowski doesn't either, Trevor Letowski. So I'd be calling, and John should have Tortorella. I know he and Marty are very close. Mm-hmm. He should call him and do a tutorial with him, or he should be picking up the phone and calling people that he trusts to talk about matchups, to talk about TV timeouts, talk about how to manipulate your roster in between games. There's a lot of different things. And he could get some sage advice from really good people if he'd pick up the phone.
All right, Pierre, looking at this game, though, tonight, you're going to this game, like we said, they control their own destiny. Chicago's going to come in. They've kind of got nothing to lose, right? I mean, there's no weight on them. They can just go out there and play. How important, and you can tell me if I'm being cliche here, how important is it to get that first goal?
Oh, come on. Are you serious?
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm not being cheesy.
You're being cheesy. What do you think?
It's very important. I know.
Okay, good. So don't ask me that because then you're going to make me look silly.
All right. But, I mean, when you come out there, you're looking at this team, you look across the ice right now, those guys aren't going anywhere. You look where they are, and
now you're wrong. You're wrong again.
Okay.
Because you know what? In the NHL, you know what? You never look across the ice because the benches are on the same side of the ice.
That's a good point. Well, you can look when you're on the ice, but I get what you're saying.
What's the Bowman line? Even a fish wouldn't get caught if they kept their mouth shut.
Well, I just got reeled in. I'm sitting next to the lobster. Let's move on. I wanted to ask you, though, with Montreal right now, the lines, the way they are, obviously we'll see how Demidov filters in. Mm-hmm. But if, let's say that works, do you keep him that way going in, or is there something you would alter that you haven't liked lately, maybe that needs a little switch?
That's a very fair question. Jimmy, I'm concerned about the way this is playing out. I'm not going to pretend. The Bowman School of Higher Learning would be to never mention what your lines are going to be in the newspaper the day of the game. Most people would know, but when you're putting Demidov in, we'll wait and see. We're not sure yet. We don't know what we're doing. So then I'll just tell you, Patrick Laine's done some good things for this team. He has. He's done some really good things for this team. But now they've taken him away from Newhook, and they've decided we're going to move you down in the lineup. You're going to play with Jake Evans and Oliver Kapanen. So the Bowman School of Higher Learning in hockey would be, we're going to start our team the same way. It's going to be Laine, Newhook, and let's just say Kapanen on the wing. And after 2 or 3 shifts, Scotty would say, Evans, Laine, Kapanen, you're up. And the guys would be on the bench like, what did he just say? You heard me. Evans, Kapanen, Laine, you're up. Change the lines. And you go, Armia, Newhook, Demidov, you're next. Going into the game, nobody feels alienated. Everybody that has been there for the total push to get this team in the playoffs feels good about themselves. Bowman School of Theory, don't knock guys down before the game. Elevate guys before the game. You can knock them down during the game if you need to. So it's like everybody's got their own philosophy, their own theory. I know one thing. I'm betting on the guy that's won more games than anybody else in the history of the sport.
Good segue there too on talking about, a guy coming into lineup that's new after everything this team has done already to get to this point. Do you think there's any awkwardness in that situation in the dressing room, or is it the coach's job to kill that, or the leadership core? How do you prevent that from happening?
That's a really fair question too, Jimmy. I think that's where you got to rely on Nick Suzuki. I think that's where Josh Anderson's got to be a pro and elevate himself and say, hey, to Patrick Line. The guy I'm worried about the most in this whole thing is Line A. Because
they're going to need him.
They need him big time, Jimmy. Exactly. They need him on the power play. And I know everybody's in a rush to put Demidov on the first power play. I can tell you right now, he eventually will get there. But he will not influence the power play as much as Lane Hudson would influence the power play. You'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. So and people say, well, you were yelling for Lane Hudson right from the summer. I was, because I knew what he would do to illustrate his greatness on the power play and help the team. Demidov is really good. I just don't know if he'll be able to, do as much as Liney on the power play. So I think it's smart they're starting him on the second power play.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And going back to if people say to you, well, you didn't say that about Lane Hudson. Well, Lane Hudson was playing over in North America for a while. Yeah, it wasn't the NHL, but it's a little different than a guy coming over from overseas who hasn't been here. Right? He's acclimating on and off the ice, to just throw him into a situation like that. He'll like you said, he'll get there. He's got the skill, but he's also got to earn it. And I think him and his agent and everybody around him would say, yeah, I want to earn it. I don't want to just be handed the keys to the convertible here. I want to earn my spot. And I would imagine that's how he is. Well,
the agent, Dan Milstein, you got him for our show, by the way, which was an amazing get. You did a great job getting Dan on. When anybody else, all those insiders could have had Dan on, they didn't. You got him, just so we're clear. So, the guys that are saying stuff about Tony Marinaro's show and all that stuff, none of those guys had Dan Milstein on their shows. None of them. You got him on our show. And I think Dan would agree with you.
Yeah.
I think Dan would agree with you 100%. Make the kid earn it, and he will. He will earn it, but don't just give it to him. That's why I just think announcing the lines, I'm not saying they're wrong. It's the only thing. The only hesitation I have is just going into this game, because it's such an important game. He shouldn't be the story. The story should be about the other guys in the lineup. So there's 17 other skaters. He's the 18th. There's 17 guys have been there most of the year. Kapanen hasn't been there all year. But those guys have pushed hard to get this thing to where it is right now. Jimmy, just one more thing before we go.
Yeah.
I talked to a kid today who's a new player on a pro team, and his team got in the playoffs. And he said to me, every day I go to the rink, I feel awkward because I don't want guys to think I'm taking their job. And the thing that really soothed everything, the coach said something in a meeting, and the players, the leadership of the team, endorsed the player to the room. So the awkwardness left.
Oh, perfect.
It left. But this is at, a minor league level. But this is the stuff that has to happen. Now, think about it for 1 second. Look at the exposure that this whole event with Demidov has gotten.
I know. And that's what I've been worried about. But I don't, the more I take
a step. But you're right. You're right. You framed this the right way. And so I'm just using examples of, when we got Rick Tocchet and Shel Samuelson and Kenny Reagan from Philadelphia, there were some guys in our room that were like, hey, is Tocchet going to take my job? Is Samuelson going to take my job? I remember one of the goalies, I'm not going to say his name, he was upset because he was worried that Kenny would take his job. Eventually he did. Eventually he did. So as a staff, we had to amalgamate these 3 new players into a team that had won the Stanley Cup the year before. Well, you got to be sensitive to these things.
Right.
People are going to say, well, no, it's a hard bit. It is a hard business. but it's an even harder business if you're not aware and understanding of these situations.
Sure. And to his credit, like Milstein told us last week, Pierre, I mean, he sounds like he's tried to keep Ivan as grounded as he can, and Ivan's been very responsive to it. Even with all the hype he got there, with all those fans, that Sick Media did a great job of showing that reception there that he got in Toronto. He just looked very humble to me. I think he was a little taken aback in a good way, like, wow, they really want me here. But his interviews I've seen, just everything he's done so far, none of it strikes me as him saying, I'm the man and I'm going to do what I want when I come in here. It's just the complete opposite. And that's a great sign for the Canadians. Right now.
It really is. And I'm glad you brought that up, Jimmy. I totally agree. I don't think he's going to be that kind of a problem player. I don't. No. One of the things that's really cool about it is the players that he played with, the North American players in particular that he played with overseas, they didn't say anything bad about him.
No.
None of them did. Yeah. So I have respect for that.
Yeah. It's good. So I think they're good in that.
Was that your ringer?
That is. And Pierre, I'm telling you, I'm having a word with Apple because this thing is on do not disturb from
their stock went up 3% today. Don't ask them too much.
Yeah, I just hope the prices on the phones don't go up. That's what I'm worried about. But then again, you can get those deals with the phone companies. So you'll be fine. Quickly, just looking at the other side, Pierre, I know a lot of our listeners won't care, but I want to get this one question because it's probably likely the last time we talk about the Blackhawks unless there's some big moves personnel-wise in the next month or so.
Coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget.
What is your take on what they have to do in the next step of their rebuild? Where do you think?
I've looked at their roster a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Donato's had a career year, 31 goals. Bedard's had a down year, and his plus-minus is atrocious. He's playing center. Mikheyev is playing on the first line right now. Mikheyev is on a really good team. Mikheyev is a third-line player, but he's a really good he's a really good player on a third line. They need depth down the middle. Too young. Bedard's young. Nazer's young. Moore's young. Veleno's young. Those are their four centers right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
just not. It's just too hard. That Ryan Green is coming out of BU. He's playing tonight in Montreal. He's playing on the third line as a right winger. He's a natural center iceman.
Yeah.
So they get it. But they're going to have to figure that part out. They're amazingly young on defense. Outside of Connor Murphy, Vlasic's a kid, Rinzel's a kid, Crevier's a kid, Kaiser's a kid, Levshunov is a kid. Levshunov's also a client of Dan Milstein's. He's got two guys in the game tonight.
Yep.
So it's just they're young, and they're young in a lot of key positions. Mm-hmm. So if I were them, I wouldn't be worried about veteran presence on the wings. I'd be worried about getting veteran presence down the middle. The middle.
Yeah. As we did, I think it was a few weeks back, we discussed their depth that they have coming. They're stacked in terms of defensive prospects.
Yeah, they are very much.
Now have a good, solid young goalie in Spencer Knight. So that's a great thing right there. They've got some other guys coming. So
hey, don't forget Drew Comesso. Go look at his numbers in the American Hockey League the last couple of months. He's been outstanding, Drew Comesso.
He really has.
He's been really good, the former BU goalie. He's been really good. Yeah.
Great call. So that's good. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think the center ice position, as we've established with the team that I cover a lot, the Boston Bruins, how important that position is. I mean, they just didn't prepare for the losses of Bergeron and Krejci, and now look where they are. So they're going to have to start to do that themselves and build from the ground up the middle.
That Coyle guy's pretty good too out in Colorado right now.
He's, you know what? I kind of like for him in his situation, Pierre, the fact that they've been resting a lot of guys as they go down the stretch here. They've leaned on him and they said, all right, let's see what you got. You're the new guy, come in. Because, he was behind a lot of talent and he was kind of lost in a shuffle at times when he first got there. But since he's had added responsibility, he's really stood up. He's really risen to the task.
Their season's done. Their regular season's done. They've played all 82 games. Charlie's been tremendous out there since he got there. Brock Nelson's been fantastic. Now, think about it for 1 second, Jimmy. These guys probably don't have to play again until Saturday, maybe Sunday. We'll see what the league does with the TV schedule. because they can't follow that up either. That's another show for us.
Pierre, before you go on, just quick, I want to tell you that what I've been told and confirmed is that if you play Thursday night, if any of the teams that are going to the playoffs have
that's Toronto. That's Toronto's playing Thursday.
They will not start till Sunday or Monday. The only way you start Saturday is if you finish your season on Wednesday.
Yeah. So think about that for 1 second. Okay.
Yep.
Think about it for 1 second. What's the number one team in Canada for TV ratings?
Toronto.
So you're going to go one Saturday night in the playoffs without Vancouver, maybe without Calgary. You'll have Edmonton. Ottawa.
Montreal will be Sunday because Washington finishes Thursday.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So what are you telling me?
I know.
What are you doing?
How they
This is what I'm telling. That's why it's another show for another day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just telling you. Like, I know, Jimmy, when TV numbers are good, every Monday there's freaking articles about how great the TV numbers have been. Boom, they hit you over the head with the TV numbers. It's good business.
Yeah.
Because they're selling ad time. They're showing everybody. When's the last time you saw a ratings release?
Not much, though. I will say, and I gotta say that I was a little hard on him at times because he was only showing the good ratings. The one we follow there on social, Pierre, was it Brazil, the young kid? He's
Yeah.
He has been telling it like it is, really pointing out, isolating where things have been bad and why they're bad. So I give him a lot of credit. And
good for him. Maybe we should get him. Maybe we should get him on the show.
We think alike. I was just going to say that.
But no, maybe we should. But anyways, getting back to it. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know how they're going to set up their TV schedule. I don't know. Maybe you do, but I don't.
That's all I know is that Saturday, Sunday thing.
This is it's an early story, but it's a big story. Because they need to strike gold quick here. They got to get a buzz around the playoffs. They have to.
For sure, Pierre. And like if you mentioned the Colorado Avalanche there, they're done.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about. So they're done. So they could have 1 week off, one full week.
I don't like that. Do you?
No.
I want to be. Yeah.
So here I've gone through this before with Scotty. We did have significant time off. And so the practices were draconian. They were harsh.
It's good, though.
You had to. We brought in referees and linesmen, and we had internal scrimmages. So the players knew we were running it like a real game. Mm-hmm. Again, a Bowman idea. And they threw another wrinkle into it. He would tell the players when to change. And he'd be sitting up in the stands with duck calls. One team, if it was 2 duck calls, you had to change. The other team, if it was 1 duck call, you had to change. And the players had to be sharp because if you weren't, then it was punishment.
Who was the guy at the duck calls? Who was the guy we had on, the former Penguin, that was talking about the duck calls?
Was it Phil Bork?
I think, yeah,
it must have been Bubba. Bubba must have done it. Or Rex. It was either Mark or
it's
Phil.
Either Rex or Bork. Yeah, I remember that. When you said
duck calls. I'm sure it was, I think it was Bubba. I think it was Bubba that did it.
Yeah.
That's Phil Bork's nickname, Bubba. So
that's
it might
great.
have been probably.
Speaking of, the Bruins did that. I don't know if you remember, Pierre. I mean, you must, because you were covering that playoff for NBC. Remember when they swept Carolina in 2019 before they went to the final to play St. Louis? And they had 10 days off. 10 days. And they did the same thing. They actually gave it was like first come, first serve, free admission to the Garden. They did a scrimmage at the Garden with refs, with the crowd, to try to simulate as much as they could what they were going to face.
I'm going to say somebody like Bruce Cassidy picked up the phone and called Scotty or called somebody that was close to Scotty and said, "Hey, what did he used to do?" Yeah. Like, or if he called Scotty, "What did you used to do?" It's smart. Yep. And I can tell you, Scotty got that from Toe Blake.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You know, and just so
right on down.
Just if you were part of the Montreal chain at the time, you learned a lot.
Yeah.
You learned a lot.
I gotta say, Pierre, where's our boy Tony here? You'll have to talk to him tonight on the post game.
Oh, I'll be doing a lot of post games with Tony, I think, so it's all good.
We'll be going at least another 2 weeks after this week.
That's fine. You know what? If Tony's, I know how busy he is because he's got it. But people don't know Tony does BPM Sports every morning, and it's all in French.
Tonight too. Yep.
Yeah, and he does TV as well. So he's a busy guy, and I get it. I totally I kind of walked in his shoes a little bit over time.
You know what? That's something I thought of. Just random question here. When you're doing that, right? Like some of these Montreal reporters like Tony have to do it, and you've done in the past, and you've got to go French to English, French to English, English to French, and you're doing interviews all day talking about the same topic. How hard is it to not get stumble because you're switching the language? Like, how do you balance that?
So Montreal's a bilingual city.
So you're just, it's common.
The more you speak French, like my wife is pure Francophone. So there are a lot of nights where we just speak French at the house. My mom is, perfectly bilingual. My children are bilingual. So both my grandmothers were French. Yeah. So I don't know. I think Tony does it well. Tony's probably trilingual, I would say, with Italian, with French, and with English. Yeah. So I think you just get used to it.
I noticed, and I don't know what they call it, but there's a lot of people up there when I was living there in Montreal that I noticed that combine French and English, almost like French-English or something. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's hilarious.
Called franglais.
A lot of people would speak that, especially when I was out on the West Island.
That would make sense.
There was a bartender at Manoir that used to do that. Yep. And speaking of Manoir, I saw that the Sick Podcast Network is doing a watch party there. Is it Shane? If you can tell me if it's tonight or is it the game on Wednesday? But they will be doing a watch party there, so you can go there and meet Tony Marinaro. It is tonight, so that starts at 6:00 tonight out there in the West Island. That's a great place, Pierre.
Manoir is a phenomenal place.
Yeah, feels like you're in an old barn, literally.
It's pretty special. Awesome.
Yeah, pretty special. That was my place to watch Liverpool and Notre Dame football when I was living there. And I by far was the youngest gentleman there. There was a lot of people, up in the 70s. It was great, but they would have great Canadian stories and tell me about the old days and the glory days. It was great. I am alerted right now that Tony is having some technical difficulties joining us. He's going to be here as soon as possible. That's great. Pierre, one thing, we do have the time then. One of our listeners, is, if you recall, wanted me to do the same thing we did with the Rangers and the Canadians, looking at the draft history. So why don't I read through that right now? When Tony comes on, we'll bring him right on. So we'll start with the Boston Bruins, and we're going to go back to
2012.
2012. Okay, so we're going to go all the way to 2012, and this is their first round history since 2012. So in 2012, they took, and they kind of went off the board with this one. I remember this vividly. Malcolm Subban, goalie out of Belleville Bulls, obviously PK's brother. I don't even know if he's still in the league right now.
He's still playing. I don't think he's playing.
He's playing. Yeah, remember he's with Vegas in their system for a while, and Chicago. 2013, they did not have a first-round pick. 2014, of course, was probably one of the best, if not the best, first-round picks they've made in a long time.
David Pastrnak.
David Pastrnak.
Well, let me just tell you right now, so everybody knows, if the Chicago Blackhawks had listened to the winningest coach in the history of the NHL, David Pastrnak would be a member of the Chicago Blackhawks and not the Boston Bruins. But we digress.
I'm glad you said that. So Scotty did the Bruins a favor, or that person not listening to Scotty did the Bruins a favor by not listening to him. All right, let's move on. 2015, of course, was the infamous 2015. Then, unfortunately, I don't know if Don Sweeney will ever live down. He gets trades, makes some wheeling and dealing at the draft. He ends up with 3 consecutive picks midway through the first round. At number 13, he takes defenseman Jacob Zboril, who, of course, as Pierre mentioned last week, was Thomas Chabot's partner. He then takes winger Jake DeBrusk at number 14. And at 15, he takes Zachary Senyshyn, who is no longer in the NHL. Last I checked, he was playing over in Europe. Zboril is no longer with the Bruins, and DeBrusk is no longer with the Boston Bruins. All 3 picks now not with the Boston Bruins there, and we won't even get into some of the names that he passed in that first round. Next year, 2016, they had 2 first-round picks. At number 14, they took Charlie McAvoy. At number 29, they take Trent Frederick. Trent Frederick is now gone. Of course, Charlie McAvoy is the anchor of that defense and potentially
Hey, Jimmy. We got to get to Tony. So
we'll finish, all right, we'll get back.
We'll finish this up. We got Tony right now, so get him on.
Tony, let's bring you on, my friend. You there?
Yes, guys, my apologies. This one's on me. Please forgive me. I'm sorry.
No worries at all, buddy. We know you're a busy man, and we know you had some technical difficulties. Tony, let's get right into it. I want to get right into it. Not going to waste any time here. So over the week or Thursday, when Demidov arrived in Toronto, and Yellow and Sammy and a crew from Sick Media were there with a bunch of fans filming it, bringing all the viewers across social media into it. There was something like 1 million viewers at one point that were watching live as Demidov arrived in Toronto. And then Darren Draker of TSN, and I don't know, I kind of took it as a shot. I don't know about you, but he decides to kind of make fun of it and kind of downplay it. So I saw you put a tweet up twice. You put one before and then you put another one up. What was your instant reaction to that?
Well, my reaction was when I saw it live, his tweet of, oh, come on, is this real type of thing? Obviously, it was open for interpretation. I thought he was taking a shot as well, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. And then yesterday, I got my hands on a video that he joined the podcast out of Calgary the day after on Friday. And so he basically said that, fans were overhyping this whole arrival, and that media in this case was overhyping the arrival. He brought up my name, and look, obviously Darren is entitled to his opinion, and then that's fine. So, but I'm entitled to mine as well. So his opinion is that it was overhyped by the fans and it was overhyped by the media. My opinion is that 180,000 people watched the stream at the same time. 380,000 people watched the video thereafter. About 800,000 people viewed the tweet. Those were impressions. There were about 121,000 engagements, and these are Twitter numbers alone. And then on Twitter, on YouTube, there was about 35,000 views. And at one point, there was 9,000 messages at the same time. So clearly there was a market for it. It was probably the most anticipated arrival of anyone the province has seen since Drogba arrived with CF Montreal. Mm-hmm. It's probably the video that got the biggest numbers of any live stream in the history of the province. So, Darren was saying that maybe it may have rubbed Marty St the wrong way, or maybe it puts pressure on the kid. The kid was approached by his agent, Dan Milstein, who told both of you gentlemen on the Sick Podcast, the eye test, that he wanted to sign Demidov up at the age of 12. Mm-hmm. He's been playing in Russia all his life. I think he knows what pressure is. When Jeff Gordon, during the draft meetings and interviews, asked Demidov what kind of a player he could be, Demidov told him he could be a franchise player. So I think the young man is used to the pressure, and maybe he doesn't even put that much pressure on himself because we're hearing about a young man who has so much fun with the game. So long story short, the market was there. I don't work for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't work for Marty St. I don't work for Ivan Demidov. I don't work for the ownership group. I work for my partners at Sick Media. I work for our sponsors. I work for the fans. And I gave them what they wanted, and the Sick Podcast gave them what they wanted, and that's my response to that. And once again, Darren is entitled to his opinion. But we're in a new age now. It's called an age of streaming. It's called an age on demand. And some people get it, and some people don't.
Yep, 100%. Pierre?
Well, I'm going to support Tony and everything he just said, number one. Number two, if we're really worried as a body, and I'm not going to mention the person's name that was questioning what Sick Media was doing, but if there's that big a concern about pressure on young players, I would ask the people that made the decision to put that out how they make their living during the World Junior. Because if you really want to talk about pressure, I've done 9 World Juniors. I'll tell you what pressure is. I'll tell you what pressure is when you see a kid, and I won't tell you who, a first-round pick get cut from a World Junior team, and he's crying in an airport, and we have a camera in his face. I'll tell you about pressure. I'll tell you all about pressure. Something that maybe some of those insiders who have never coached a game in the history of their life, who have never scouted a player in the history of their life, and they choose to go after Tony, no, doesn't fly with me. Sorry.
I'm behind both of you guys. 100% agree. And I think that I think Tony put it best that we are in a new age of media right now. And obviously a lot of different companies are coming up the ranks and seizing that opportunity, and good on them. And that's what we're trying to do here at the Sick Podcast Network. That's what Pierre and I are trying to do with the eye test here. That's what Tony's trying to do there. We're just trying to do our jobs, and we have to change with the times. And I agree with Tony that I think there are, and I'm not going to say specifically that person that's in question here, but I think there are too many right now that have very big established positions in our field that won't accept that. And I think it's high time that they do, because we all got to, what's the word I'm looking for? Evolve, whether we like it or not. And if you don't, you're going to be left behind. That's the way I'd put it, Tony.
But besides that, what's the problem with being a fan? Because even the fans, like, who's to say that fans were overhyping something? Sammy has been a Philadelphia Flyers fan for quite some time, and he doesn't want to change as much as we talk to go over to the Montreal Canadiens. He's loyal for now. But Sammy was there at that airport, anxiously awaiting the arrival of Demidov, because Sammy has Demidov mania right now. And Demidov mania is putting a smile on Sammy's face and a smile on so many other faces. Why not? What's wrong with that? And Kent Hughes earlier today said this is one of the reasons why Montreal is the most passionate hockey market and hockey city in the world. And he's right. And that's what it is. And he also talked about the fact that this is a tradition and custom with soccer players that we've seen in the past, some of which came to Montreal. We were talking about Drogba, DeVio as well. Yep. I think it's great. So Montreal Canadiens fans are starving for his offensive superstar. What's wrong with that? No, what's wrong with many who have seen him play are saying that he has the raw talent and potential to be the greatest offensive forward talent the Canadiens have had, maybe since Kovalev, and maybe even since Lafleur.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Who is this organization drafted at the forward position that was an offensive star?
Okay. Tony. Not Guy Lafleur. We can talk Kovalev. Let's not go Lafleur yet. Okay, it's a little early. Let's just tamp the brakes. But I'm not
saying Sheridan Lafleur. I'm saying out of all the drafted players since Lafleur, who were the best offensive talents the Canadiens have drafted? Naslund and Richer? If Demidov plays to his potential, he's going to be in Naslund and Richer discussions.
I'm not debating that, but I didn't say Lafleur.
Well, since Lafleur, who have they drafted?
Oh yeah, but no, that's not what you started with. You started with Kovalev and then Lafleur, and I'm like, no, not yet. I was there when Guy Lafleur got drafted as a 20-year-old. I saw him. I delivered the Montreal Star newspaper. Let's just go easy. Let's go easy.
So thank you for correct. What I meant was he has the potential to be the best offensive player the Canadiens have had after Guy Lafleur, like since 19.
That's fair.
Lafleur retired.
That's fair.
For a period of 6 seasons, between 73 and 79, he was the best hockey player in the world.
100%. 100%.
The players the Canadiens have drafted have been Naslund in 79 and Richer in 84. Demidov has a chance to be as good or better than Naslund and Richer.
Yep.
I would agree. I would agree with that. 100% agree.
All right, Tony.
Kent Hughes earlier today, when asked about, do you still think he's going to be a superstar because you thought he was going to be a superstar when you drafted him? Have you changed your mind? No. I think he's going to be a superstar. He's not the only one who says it, right?
No, he's going to be. This kid's going to be really good. He's going to be. But I'm going to take a page out of our good friend Maxime Lapierre's book. He called Lane Hudson a franchise player. We're going to see. We're going to see in the next little while if Ivan Demidov's going to be a franchise player, because I'm leaning towards franchise rather than superstar.
Fantastic stuff. And guys, I don't know if you. Once again, if I have a minute here, I can share a story with Zach Fucali.
Go.
I called Zach Fucali last week. He's in the KHL playoffs.
Yep.
And I said, I want to talk to you about Demidov. He said, sure, I got a couple of minutes for you. And I said to him, "What's your concern, if any?" And he said, "Tony, the defensive part of the game will be a concern early on." Mm-hmm. He arrives raw in the National Hockey League. It's going to take him a while to learn the system. It is the best league in the world, and he's going to get burned on the defensive side of the puck. And he says, "You know what? Everyone gets burned in the National Hockey League, Tony. It happens to everyone early on in your career." But he says the second he's able to get over that hump and they teach him the 200-foot game, he says, Tony has all the intangibles. He's got the creativity. He's got the imagination. He's got the hands. He's got the foot speed. And he has the grit. This kid has character. This kid comes to play. He wants to play. He wants to win. He was his team's best player in the playoffs. He did at 19 years old what no other player has done at age 19 in the KHL. So this is not coming from me. This is coming from Zach Fucali, who had a chance to face his shots.
Hey, and you know what else, Tony? I'm going to go to Tony D'Angelo, who played with him in SCA in St. Petersburg, who's playing back in the NHL right now. And D'Angelo's played with a lot of really good players. He goes, this kid is unbelievable. Like, he's not a little bit good. This guy's really good. Tony D'Angelo's a hard marker, man. He's a tough guy. And he was so praiseworthy of the player, not just as a player, but as a person too. Yeah. So I'm with you on that 100%. With you on that 100%.
Pierre,
go ahead, Tony.
I understand that he has to do it in front of NHL opposition first, right? Because you can say whatever you want from watching him handle the puck at practice and on Saturday morning in Toronto, yesterday in Brassard, and earlier today, but some images just don't lie. I mean, his hands, the way he stick handles the puck, there's two players since I've been covering the Canadiens, two forwards since I've been covering the Canadiens, that have a relationship with the puck on their stick and are able to stick handle through pucks. There's probably three of them because Drouin is the third one. Yeah. But the two best I've seen do it with the Canadiens since I've been covering the team, having those quick hands and the ability to stick handle in tight spots. And they used to do it all the time, an exercise with about 100 or 200 pucks on the ice and try and stick handle in between them, was Kovalchuk and Kovalev. Mm-hmm. This guy's in the discussion, guys.
Yep.
That's high praise, because I can tell you right now, Kovalev was one of the best practice players I ever saw in my career. And I'm a huge hard marker on practice. And I agree with Tony on that too. I'm telling you, you ask any player that played in the league in Kovalev's prime, they'll tell you this guy did stuff in practice that was insane. So for Tony to say that, that's legit. Like, I would agree with that too.
You know, the other thing too, guys, and Tony, if I missed it and you saw it and I'm wrong, I apologize. But one thing I noticed throughout this season, there were so many stories that came out about his coach and that team being hard on him. You know, they would bench him at times, and the media was all over it. I never saw him once complain. You never saw anything back through the media. Maybe he did it behind the scenes. I have no idea. But he didn't make it public. And that's, to me, is a good sign of maturity that he's going to need, especially in a market like Montreal, guys.
This guy, based on everything we're hearing, guys, he's got a great attitude. He's a great team guy. You know, a lot of people were upset and the Canadiens didn't draft Michkov, a couple of years ago. And I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I was one of them. But the fact of the matter is I didn't have all the information. A couple of years later, what I can tell you is that the Canadiens and other teams got reports, and there's other reasons why he wasn't drafted as well, that, you know, when things aren't going too well for Michkov, he's not the most pleasant guy to be around. He can disrupt the chemistry of a hockey team quite a bit, and his attitude, it's not exemplary. The exact opposite has been said about Demidov, and that's why the Canadiens have Demidov today. Not to say they couldn't have both of them, but there was a buyer beware on Michkov. There was no buyer beware on Ivan Demidov. And I would imagine that a couple of teams that had it passed up on Demidov are kicking themselves right now.
Yeah, well, I can tell you right now, Nicky Bobroff did a lot of research. And don't forget, in 2010, Nicky Bobroff worked for St. Petersburg. Like, he's if there's anybody in the league plugged in to where this kid's coming from, it's Nicky Bobroff, who runs scouting with Marty Lapointe for the Montreal Canadiens.
Love it.
And his dad is still with them today. Is he not, Pierre?
He is.
Yep.
He is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, hey, Tony, we know you're a busy man. We appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for coming on, and I can't wait to see you up there in Montreal during the playoffs.
Yes. Once again, my apologies for being late, but
this
is the most exciting night in Montreal since, what was it, either Saint Jean-Baptiste 2021 when the Canadiens eliminated the Vegas Golden Knights, Game 4 when Josh Anderson scored in overtime in the final and the Canadiens beat the Leafs, the night they drafted Juraj Slafkovsky number 1 overall in the draft. Those 3 nights have been the biggest buzz Montreal has seen in the last 4 years. 4 years later, tonight is the biggest game of the year. I can't wait, guys.
Hey, Tony, I won't be late for your show tonight. I promise.
I know you won't, Pierre, but I could have told you a long time ago you're a lot more professional than I ever will be.
No way. I love being your teammate.
Yeah,
you have fun tonight. You have fun tonight.
Man. Good stuff, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Guys.
Thank you.
All right, Tony Marinaro. Of course, you can see him and Pierre tonight and after every Habs game, as long as they go this spring, on right here on the Sick Podcast Network. And of course, you can see his show every night, even when there's not games as well. Look, Tony was one of the first people I met in Montreal, Pierre, when I started coming up covering games. I met him through Mitch Melnick, and he didn't believe me, and, James Patrick Murphy, that I was Italian and had an Italian grandmother. So I brought up the sauce one time, and then he believed me. But he's always good to me. I love his passion. He's worked his way up the ladder, and he deserves all the money he's making and the accolades for sure.
Yeah, no, passion's a big part of this business. There's no question. He has an opinion too, so he doesn't sugarcoat it. And when you have informed opinion, like he has very informed opinion, it works.
Yep, for sure.
When you're just throwing stuff out there and you don't have informed opinion, people don't buy it very often.
All right, so here's what I was thinking as we were talking there, Pierre. Why don't we do the Rangers-Bruins comparison off the top of the show tomorrow? Just so we can get to the Q&A. I don't want to leave you guys hanging with your questions. That's our favorite part of the day, right?
Yeah, it's a huge – I look forward to it every day. I really do.
I learn something new every time, Pierre. Yeah. We've got the most educated hockey guests around. All right, our listeners and viewers, I should say, and guests. All right, let's go. Let's get to the sponsor first. TCS Customs and Logistics. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is sickpodcast at shiptcs.com. Also, let's talk about our wonderful gambling sponsor, Betway, where you can still go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code right in front of you, or go to the website and click on the details section to create your new account. It is only available to new customers. The offer is not available in Ontario right now. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 18 plus, and you must bet responsibly. Let's go to the Sick Pick of the Night.
It's time for Sick Picks, brought to you by Betway.
All right, I'm going to start with the first game on the docket and then hit the last one on the docket. And that first one I'm looking at right now on Betway is the Chicago Blackhawks at the Montreal Canadiens. Canadiens heavy favorites, as one might expect in this, minus 285 on the money line. With the puck line at minus 1.5, you're still minus value at minus 108. And the over-under is 6.5. I'm going to give you 2 bets here on this game. Give me the under at 6.5, and give me, and you'd be surprised, Pierre, on these goal scorer props and point props. It's his first game. You would think you'd get a lot of value on Demidov already, but they are just expecting this guy to do great things right off the bat. So that's why I'm going to look at his line mate that he's looking like he'll start the game with, and that's Alex Newhook, who can get you right now some great value on an anytime goal. Maybe Demidov sets it up at plus 370. Give me Alex Newhook to score an anytime goal. And then, as I said, I'll go to the last game on the docket, and that's LA at Edmonton. The battle for second place. If LA wins, they clinch second place in the division and home advantage in the first round as they play the Oilers for what seems like the 100th time in a row. No, I think it's just 3 right now. Give me the LA Kings on the puck line. No Connor McDavid tonight. So that line has switched a lot. They are now the favorites, but give me them on the puck line. You can get plus 230 value. Let's get to that Q&A. What do we got? Renaissance Resistor. If the Habs don't make the playoffs, should MSL be put on the hot seat? I'm baffled by his coaching of late. No.
I think every day a coach goes to work in the NHL, they're on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a 10-game losing streak to start next year, he'll be on the hot seat. So about making the playoffs this year, I think he's playing with house money. But I'd tell you right now, the expectation is so high right now that they better get off to a good start. I'm just telling you, it's not because I want him to get fired. I don't, but I'm just telling you. The only thing, and Jimmy knows, Renaissance Resistor, I didn't like the way they started the game in Ottawa. I was really baffled by what they did with the lines. I was really baffled.
No, and Pierre, to your credit, you've always been fair with coaches when you're critiquing things. I mean, I remember at the beginning of the season, I forget what it was. There was something you critiqued of Marty, and then on Mitch's show, you later admit you're wrong. And that's one thing. I mean, as long as people are out there, you're going to tell it like it is, just like you said about Tony. So I love that you say that right now about Marty, because everyone else out there is kind of, with the exception of Renaissance Resistor, it looks like everyone's saying he can do no wrong. He's human. He's going to make mistakes, and he's going to make some in the playoffs. Every
single coach makes mistakes.
Exactly.
Some of them get covered up by elite goaltending, by the way.
Exactly. Which the Canadians should have for the very near future. All right. Next question. Postnet on 130. Why isn't Jack Guy playing? Team targets Hudson or Caulfield or Demidov. Will Anderson, Pizzetta, Struble, Matheson, Savard, or Gooley be enough of a deterrent?
Well, Pizzetta's not playing tonight.
No.
I do think Anderson's enough of a deterrent. I think Gooley, we saw what he did with Max Domi the other night. That was pretty amazing. That's a tough cat to fight like that. Savard's really not a fighter, but he's a big body presence. Struble can fight. He hasn't really fought well yet. But they just don't have a lot of confidence in Arbor. Arbor's been beaten out by Jaden Struble. That's just where it is. Yep. He's been beaten out. That's all.
Doesn't mean you're giving up on him.
No, we're not giving up on him at all. But Arbor's going to have to refine. At this time of the year, the little mistakes that he makes, especially in the neutral zone, making misreads, those end up in the back of your net when you play better teams that are more focused. So he needs to get going in terms of studying and learning, which I think he will.
And best case scenario for him right now, I think, is they win tonight, they clinch their spot, they rest some people Wednesday, put him in against Carolina, get his legs going again in game action. And then if you need him, like Pierre said, what if you need him in a series against Washington? What if Tom Wilson runs roughshod in game one? You throw him in for game two. So you'll see him again, I think. All right, next question. Ethan Russell. What's up, Ethan? What makes a coach really stand out in the playoffs? What makes them successful in the playoffs? Thanks.
Coaches that understand their roster. Coaches that do a really good job matching up. Coaches that deal with the media really well. They don't overreact to a loss, and they don't overreact to a win. Dealing with the media in the playoffs is a really big part of a head coach's job. So there's a lot of different things, but understanding how to run your bench, knowing when you have players that are going, knowing when your players that aren't going real well. And you can't make it personal, but you got to sit them down. I've told that story to you a million times. Told that story to you a million times, Jimmy, where after a couple shifts in Chicago in game 4 in 92, I went to Scotty and I said, Gordy doesn't have it tonight. We're talking about Gordy Roberts. And he said, well, you're in charge of that. Don't bother me with that. I'm trying to coach the forward. You take care of the D. So he told Gordy to take a seat, and he was really angry at me. But you know what? At the end of the game, we hugged and we celebrated and we drank out of the cup together. There were no hard feelings.
There you
go.
No
hard feelings.
All right, next question. Steve Lash, unsure if you spoke about this, but what's your thoughts on DeHaan's comments about the Rangers? A bit scathing since he hasn't been with the team that long and isn't the first club he's playing for.
Well, I have no problem talking about Calvin DeHaan. I've known him since he was a kid playing junior hockey with the Oshawa Generals with John Tavares. Calvin DeHaan was a 12th pick overall in the 09 draft. He was the same draft as Johnny T. They were real good friends, good teammates, and those Oshawa teams were really good. Calvin's been around a lot, whether he's with the Islanders or there's Carolina, Chicago, Tampa, Colorado, New York, doesn't matter. We've talked about this a lot. Jimmy, something's gone wrong in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what broke there. I'm going to say it started with Trouba, but it may have started before that. Something's gone wrong there. And I talked to somebody today who's very close to the situation. And he said, going to the rink in New York now is very toxic, very toxic. And so if you're a player like Calvin, who's been in the league a long time, he's made over $30 million, $32 million to be exact in his career. When you go into the rink and you don't feel right about something, it tells you there's something wrong. There's something wrong there.
I definitely know, Pierre, that the person I spoke to today as well is not as connected as you, but the general theme that I read and I got from him is that a lot of people aren't feeling, like when I say people, a lot of players aren't feeling heard. They want to change. They want to do whatever they got to do to win, but they're kind of been left in the dark. And that's the vibe I got from what someone told me today. So there's a lot of things that need to change in terms of the environment around that team. Yeah. It seems like
it's clear.
And we've been saying it since September.
We've been saying it since probably November. Something's not right there. You could tell something was wrong. And I want to say you talk about I've been saying Braden Schneider hasn't gotten better this year.
Nope.
So then you find out they didn't put it out there that he's been hurt. Yeah. He's going to need surgery. Well, clearly there was something wrong with the guy. I kept saying it. And I kept hearing these people, Braden Schneider been playing great. No, he hasn't. Yeah. What are you talking about? He hasn't gotten better at all. He was way better last year. Way better. So, I'm going to just say, so there you go. They don't want to put out a report that the guy's hurt. They don't want to save the player from himself. And now all of a sudden they're putting it out there saying, well, he's been hurt most of the year. Oh, okay. Thanks for telling us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Things have everything has just been a mess. I hope they can figure it out though, because the league needs that team.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And how about that stat, Pierre? The first time that the U.S. original 6 teams ever since ever have not been in the playoffs in the same playoff season. That's insane.
Well, we talked about it before.
And that is not good for TV. I'll tell you that.
Oh, no.
All right, next question. No. Randy Workman, should the Rangers consider hiring Carl? No.
They could consider it, but if I were his agent, I'd say you're not going there.
Won't go near that to start.
You're not going there. Not to start your career there.
Not after everything we just discussed there. All right, next question. Randy Workman, how hard is it on announcers to stay neutral calling a game? It depends, Pierre. I think you'd agree. It depends. Are you the team announcer or are you national? Right?
Well, no, I hope Randy's talking about national. Yeah. And if you're talking about national, it's not hard at all. Look, I grew up a Montreal fan, but I treated Montreal the same way I treated Pittsburgh, the same way I treated Ottawa, same way I would treat Carolina. Those are the teams I was involved with over the course of my career. Never.
Who was the player you brought up last week that thought you were on the between the glasses in a game, and I think he was playing for like Philly or something, and he looked at you and he said, "Wait, you coach for Pittsburgh?" And you're like, "Yeah, big deal. Doesn't mean I'm a Pittsburgh fan right now." I forget.
No, it was Ovi.
Ovi. Oh, it was Ovi. That's right.
It was Ovi. Yeah, I actually laughed at him. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. Like I said, whoever told you that, it's probably one of his representatives at the time. I said to him, whoever told you that, tell him to tell you all the good stuff I've been saying about you. Okay, yeah. Just try to do that.
Exactly, and you were saying it before anyone in North America.
I was.
All right, next question. Terry Reve, can you explain why there are regional blackouts? No, Terry, and it's something that you've been told over and over again is getting fixed. But I saw plenty of issues when they released the new deal for Sportsnet up in Canada. There's still going to be blackouts. So I don't know what's going on with that. Hopefully they can figure it out.
Great question, though. Very good question. Because the league watches this show. So hopefully they'll give us an answer.
Yep. I hear you. All right. Next question. Juice _031017. Do the Laval Rocket have the best roster in the AHL?
They have a really good roster, but I would just caution you on this. Rochester is very good. Rochester Hershey Bears are very good. Just trying to – Providence has added a lot to their roster with free agents and college players. They've done a pretty good job. Coachella Valley is very good. So they're you just – the American Hockey League is like the NHL. It's vast. It's all over the place. Do I think Laval is really good? Yeah, I've been saying it since the start of the year. They're really good. To say they have the best roster, I think I'm not comfortable saying that.
All right, next question. Alex Duval, Eric Lane brought AIC out of a similar situation that RPI is in currently. Could we see RPI change the tide and see them in Lake Placid in the next couple of years?
Absolutely. By the way, there are 2 college coaches that have come on our show. One of them is Brett Riley. He's a new coach at Ferris State. I spoke to Coach Riley today. And the other one is Eric Lang, who I spoke with via text last week. Both of them are perfect solutions to both those programs. Riley at Ferris and I think Lang at RPI. Congratulations to both of them. I think they're both going to do outstanding work. Do I think RPI can get it going? I do. Legendary program. Houston Fieldhouse is an amazing arena. The Big Red Freakout is an awesome event. I've coached in it and I've watched my son play in it. It's an awesome event at Houston Fieldhouse. So they got a lot of legacy, a lot of tradition, some really good banners there. And now they just got to get players in there. And I think Eric Lang can do that.
And speaking of Riley's, congratulations to Brendan Riley as well, Pierre.
Yeah, going to LIU, taking over for his cousin. Yeah, that's great.
All right, next question. Are they going to start a new Riley thing like Army did or what at LIU? It's just going to keep going? That would be something.
Yeah, Jet Graves is a really good story. Yes. He's a kid that played for the Barrie Colts, never drafted, goes and plays in the American. He first actually started in Kalamazoo in the East Coast Hockey League, and then he went to play for Cleveland. He is a good goalie. He's not huge. He's about 5'11", 6 feet. When I was heavily involved with Belleville in the American Hockey League, along with Ottawa, saw Jet play a lot. Thought he was very good. Thought he was really athletic, really quick. And obviously what he's done the last little while, but especially this weekend, beating Washington in back-to-back games, that's really impressive. Really impressive.
He received the Star of the Week from the NHL for that. And good on him, too, because I saw people on social when they said they were going to switch to Greaves for the last few games here. Oh, well, Columbus is done. That's it. And he said, and credit to that whole team. They haven't given up. They're not going to give up. So, again, Montreal, get it done tonight if you want.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Kathleen, what do you think is going to happen with Isaac Howard now that he hasn't signed with Tampa again? Do odds favor him going to a different team?
Yes.
We were asked this last week, and Pierre said, yeah, you think so, huh?
I would think so. I don't know what happened there. I have no idea. I cautioned Tampa when they drafted him. I wasn't sure what direction it would go, but clearly he's looking at some other stuff. Congratulations to him, by the way, for winning the Hobey Baker. Yeah. Congratulations to him. That's an amazing accomplishment. He had a great year. Do I think his year was better than Ryan Leonard? I don't, but he won. He got the votes. So congrats.
We are alerted here right now. We do have to get going, unfortunately, but we will stay on extra and overtime for you tomorrow. Don't worry. It's just a busy time for the Sick Media Group. As we said, they're doing a live event at the Manoir on the West Island in Montreal. Head over there if you're in the area for sure. Say hello to the crew for us.
Jimmy, how many questions are on there? Just so we know for tomorrow, because we'll get to the questions early tomorrow. I don't want to leave anybody hanging.
I don't have the – well, Shane can tell
us. Shane just said there's about 12. So okay. we promise. Shane, just keep those. We will get to them tomorrow. We promise. We're never going to leave you in the lurch, and we'll get to them early tomorrow, Jimmy.
Yep.
We'll do the Bruins breakdown with Montreal, and then go right to the questions.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you to Tony Marinaro for joining us. He was great as always. Thanks to our crew up in Montreal, to Shane for working the boards, and thanks to you, the viewers and listeners, and of course for all your questions. We appreciate it. And like Pierre said, we will get those ones that we didn't get to today tomorrow. Don't you worry, because it's our favorite time of the show. Until then, enjoy the hockey tonight, and maybe tomorrow we'll be talking about the Montreal Canadiens being in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We shall see. Have a good one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.